Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Corey. Today we're going to be looking at PPC Reddit questions and see if I can help out. So I'm looking at this week, and we're doing just sort of like the most engaged with topics. Again, I have not pre-vetted these. I feel like just doing it in real time is a little bit more realistic. So I'm not like having these super polished answers. I want you to be able to see with me how I walk through breaking down a problem. I feel like that's way more helpful for you guys. So I'm going to do this guy here. It's should I start PPC in 2023? Okay, I love this. So I'm 29 years old, okay, and I've been working in restaurants since I was 20, okay. I'm already thinking like potentially, I mean, it depends on what their job was, if they were management or ownership. I really doubt, unless they're, their dad gave them the business or something, and there's an inheritance there. They might have some very industry specific knowledge. At least they have some knowledge of hospitality and some of the ways that people think about restaurants, and maybe potential for really having owning a space in the restaurant industry. Probably not, if we're only talking about they've been in the restaurant industry for 9 years, but you never know. During that time, I also did digital marketing for 3 years doing e-commerce, okay, building my own websites with Shopify, excuse me, and creating my own content using Photoshop and Premiere Pro. Okay. I ran traffic mostly through Facebook ads and did some Google ads as well. I was thinking that I could follow some Google ads courses while practicing with some e-commerce products on my own to eventually become an expert and do freelancing. What do you think? Okay, so I love the initiative. I love that you're not afraid of getting into this industry. There's a lot of people that have been doing it a while, myself included. And at some points, as this sort of AI revolution is happening, where we're all sort of afraid that AI is going to take our jobs and stuff. Hey, look, totally understandable, and I'm not putting that down at all. I totally understand the concerns. They're valid to some degree. For this person in particular, the last part about become an expert and do freelancing. So one thing, just from I'm not a motivational guru or anything, but like one thing is just from a mindset standpoint, becoming an expert, that's going to take years. I know that it seems like a course is going to teach you everything you need to know, and this person maybe is not necessarily alluding or assuming that they're going to become an expert right away, but I just want to set the standard, or set whatever you want to call it, set the expectation. It's going to take several years. You might think after finishing a course or 10 courses or reading all the books in the PPC industry, and you're following all these people on LinkedIn and YouTube, that you've got it. Like you think you know it. You're an expert. Let me start posting content. Look, man, it's going to take years and years and years. You need to see a lot of different industries. You need to talk to a lot of different businesses, develop strategies for very unique businesses before you can, in my opinion, classify yourself as an expert. You might be great in one particular niche or one particular industry, or you're really good for B2B, lead gen, or you're really, really good at e-commerce, but there are so many little pieces to become an expert in this field, whether it's like feed optimization, whether it's conversion rate optimization, whether it's conversion tracking, whether it's analytics and doing data analysis, Excel, Google Sheets, if that's more your thing, navigating the interface. So you might be able to quote unquote learn it in a day, but to be able to flow through it, almost like you're looking at this account and you're like, we've all seen, I'd hope to think that we've all kind of seen The Matrix, where they're looking at the screens and like the green is going through the screen. At a certain point, you get to that point where you're just like, you're in a flow state where you're looking at the numbers and you're asking yourself questions like boom, 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 boom. Like, okay, I see this is this. Okay, what about this? And you're like, oh, okay, I got two questions down the line of, okay, well, because I'm seeing this in the data, I'm guessing this is happening. Let me see if I'm right. And you go over here and you look like, okay, I see the search terms are doing this. Okay, and then you start thinking, okay, what are some bigger projects that we need to be starting to do to break this problem down even more? Like, do we need to do a quadrant analysis, right? Do we need to download all of this information in different time ranges and compare and do VLOOKUPs? Not that anyone does VLOOKUPs anymore. You should be using like the index function, but regardless, these are all the things that take so much time to do, and every business with different strategies needs to not have this templated approach. This is one of the issues, not to get on a complete soapbox here, but just for a moment, this is one of the issues that I see with agencies. Is obviously it makes sense from them from a profitability standpoint to streamline everything, to template everything. And I'm getting this question a lot around like Performance Max, like, well, what's what's our we need to build a template for Performance Max. Like what should we do for Performance Max for every single account? We have hundreds of accounts. What do we do? And that does not work, man. Like if you really believe in providing quality services, and they're coming to you because you're an expert, because hopefully you can look at their business, their objectives, their goals, whatever you want to call it, look at their historical data and turn that into marketing gold that's going to attract more customers. Probably new customers. Most customers are not hiring Google Ads agencies or PPC or marketing agencies to just like keep their existing customer base, right? So that's an issue if you're coming into it looking at it just needing to be templated for everything. So my whole spiel here is just to say, like, if you want to become an expert, know going into it, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Working in agencies, I know this person is saying freelancing. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But usually you want to start, I hate to say this honestly, but you got to start in an agency, honestly, to what do they call it? To cut your teeth, because it's a grind. It's super stressful. A lot of people burn out pretty quickly, to be honest with you. And I really feel like that's unfortunate. I don't recommend that they work in agencies really long term because I think it can stunt your growth a little bit. I think it's good to expand your horizons, maybe do if you can contractually, legally. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, ask your attorney. But, try to do a little bit of like PPC freelancing on the side, whether that's for free, not usually something I recommend, but, if it's maybe not doing it with a friend, but just some other business on the side so you can have a little bit more play in how you approach things. A lot of agencies want you to sort of follow like a SOP, standard operating procedure or whatever it is. And it can really make the job super boring, and it removes a lot of autonomy that's really important for humans. Again, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I know enough to know that autonomy is pretty important for people. And it's definitely important for me to feel like I'm thriving and that I'm being challenged. So anyway, going into it, I would recommend working at an agency just so you get a lot of experience very quickly. I think that's good for some people, maybe not so much for others, but that's kind of this is the work that we do. It's all very time sensitive in a lot of cases. It's a lot of analysis. You do have to figure out how to move pretty quickly. And then what's great about that is after a while, once you maybe move out and you don't want to work for agencies anymore, or you don't want to start your own business in terms of an agency and you just want to freelance, well, in that case, you need to have really, really, really gotten flexible with your approaches, because you will figure out that there are better approaches than others depending on the client, depending on their needs. There is not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution for every single person like you might have been doing with this agency for years. So that's great if you want to eventually do freelancing. I highly recommend it. I think it's super profitable. I think a lot of people could do it if they put their mind to it and they have built the experience, with agencies. Also, don't forget about startups, man, because startups, I did that myself, where it's high pressure. It's a lot of work if it's a very, I don't know a lot of startups that aren't super aggressive usually or really ambitious, right? But you're going to be around other people that are being pushed, and it's a very small team, and you're going to get a lot of communication between departments, and you're going to be asked to do a lot. And I think that's also really, really good experience. My experience was working internally for a business, sort of like doing everything, like building the website and building all the lead flows and et cetera, and kind of growing the digital marketing department from scratch. And then eventually I worked agencies. So I tried freelancing and that failed awfully because I jumped into it. It failed miserably because I just wasn't ready for it. My ambition was much farther than my skill set was at that point. So then, I took that, understood it, and moved agency side. And then the agency side, I had probably way too many accounts for a single person. No disrespect to that agency at all. It was what it was. But it helped me to actually learn very quickly because I didn't have time to sit there and overthink every single account. Like for example, there's a client, they're spending $2,000 a month. Their average order value is $200. Like there's just, and every click costs like $12. There's really not a lot of optimizations you can make because there's not a lot of data to work with. So, you can't sit there and spend 2 hours a day on that account. which in an agency, you're not going to be able to do that anyway, because you've got 30 other clients, maybe potentially here, depending on the agency you join, that they also think that they are first in line to be serviced, right? So these are all considerations that I think are really important for taking an agency on and working with an agency, because I think it gives you a really, really good experience in how to just move quickly, not overthink things too much, but also how to think things through from a templated standpoint, so that you can then break that later when you leave the agency and you've got like something to fall back on, maybe in your mind of like a general template for most businesses, but you're also well aware that of what pieces need to change so that you can get the best results for that particular client. So should you start in PPC 2023? Hey, I mean, that's up to you. I think you should consider where this industry is going. Everything I just said is something to consider, but also, you already have experience. You got some really relevant experience, Photoshop, Premiere Pro. If you join an agency with a strong creative team, you're probably not going to be messing around with that too much. They're probably going to be doing that for you, unless that's what you want to do. In that case, maybe there's a good position for you there. You've done 3 years doing e-com. Again, years is not really something I'll mention, like, I've been doing this for 7 years, but I've also talked to people who have done it for 10 years and they barely know what they're talking about, because that experience is not that extensive. Again, going back to my point about working with agencies or just working with a large breadth of clients, it's more about the amount of work and how deep you've gotten into particular types of industries and accounts and strategies. That's way more important than the number of years you've done it. Regardless, I do think that this person shows some potential, just considering that they've already built a website with Shopify, so they're familiar with that CMS. That's going to be a lot of, if he goes and works with e-com clients, that's going to be, most popular CMS that's out there. So that's great. Just being able to navigate those reports in that platform, that's very, very applicable to what we usually do. Mostly through Facebook ads, and did some Google ads as well. So good that they have Omni-Channel approach or Omni-Channel Experience, because they won't be going into it blinded, just thinking that Google ads is the only thing. And, if I'm doing this in Google ads and everything else, it doesn't really matter as much or whatever. Like, they're not blinded by that. They understand that if I do this in Facebook ads, this will probably happen in Google, or if I do this in Google, this might happen in Facebook. They understand the interactions and the strengths and weaknesses of both of those platforms. So I think that that's really awesome too. In terms of courses, there's a lot of great courses out there. Isaac's course on Udemy, everyone mentions that. I think Ed Leek, he has God tier ads, nothing but high praise for that as well. Can't recommend it enough. And I think everybody that really knows their stuff knows that Ed Leek knows his stuff as well. He's sort of the expert's expert. So certainly recommend, if you want to take a course and you want to really have a high value course, certainly consider that. But also, man, like, just YouTube videos, right? I know everybody says this, but there is so much good content out there on YouTube. Michael Nadalin has great content on YouTube. Solutions 8, fantastic. I've been following them for years. Those guys are geniuses over there. Certainly take in as much as you can from them. They are fantastic. I actually did a couple of podcasts with them in the past. They certainly know their stuff. So, take in as much free content as you can from there. Get involved in the live Q&A questions. And honestly, I don't want to leave anybody out. There's a million YouTube channels out there, that purport to have good content, and honestly, most of them are pretty solid. So, experiment, look around with different channels to figure out who seems to really know what they're talking about. You may not know until you really get your feet wet with the industry over the years, but once you've gotten some experience, you'll start picking up on the people that really know their stuff. Oh, and I don't want to forget, in terms of YouTube channels and just content in general, Mike Ryan of SMEC, those guys are geniuses over there. I mean, really, really a whole nother level of PPC in terms of analysis and applying data science principles to PPC. I feel like they are ahead of the game for most agencies, whereas there's a lot of agencies sort of stuck in just templating everything and like getting as many, roofer accounts as possible. And it's just like a profit scaling thing for them. And it's less about the quality. I hate to say it. There's a lot of agencies out there that are doing that, and they're reporting on your fantastic click-through rates last week. And that's just, you don't want to be following people that are promoting things like that. The SMEC is completely different in the sense that, not to blow smoke up their ass too much, but, that there is so much content that they talk about that is so much forward looking in terms of applying AI, developing machine learning to the business intelligence that's available to the businesses. So I can't recommend them as enough as well in terms of an agency to work with. Of course, I manage accounts as well, but I'm incredibly particular with who I work with. But if you are a very large e-com business, and I mean like very, very large, hundreds of thousands, millions per month, and you've got a ton of products and SKUs and a kind of complex business use case or a complex business model, I should say. You have very different strategies for different departments, etc. You probably want to give them a shout and see if they'd be a good fit for you. Again, I am not a partner or affiliate in any way. I just think that they're amazing, and they seem to be very ahead of the pack in terms of what they're talking about and where the industry is going. I think it moves more into it fits more into what they're starting to put out there. And honestly, that's how I'm going to finish this, is just talking about that, like in terms of where the industry is going, because I do think that's an important consideration if you're looking at beginning in any kind of industry or job or whatever it is, occupation. Where's it going? Like, where's the state of it? So this is a whole topic on its own, but really quickly, obviously utilizing AI is like ad nauseum. We've all heard it a million times. How are you using ChatGPT or these other types of things, Google Bard, etc., to enhance what you're doing, essentially, right? Now, I'm not a big believer that if you are really good at this, that you're just going to be replaced by AI overnight. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So don't worry too much about all the nightmare scenarios that you're hearing about of us all just getting replaced by this, and that Google just wants your credit card and like eventually that's where it's going, where the business Google just tells the business, hey, just give me your credit card and I'll figure out the rest. Give me your site. We'll scan it and we'll figure it out. Like, they have been trying that and they may eventually get there, no doubt, but it is certainly not where we're at currently. And I don't see it happening anytime soon. And even if it does, if it's just in like 3 years from now, let's just say like, oh no, it's in 3 years. Nobody really does Google ads anymore, which again, I think is really implausible. You'll still need some strategy around how to work your website into feeding the right intent signals to Google. I digress. You'll have 3 years if that's what happens. In worst case scenario, you have a few years where you get a lot of experience working with different businesses, industries of different sizes, etc., working through strategizing around different business goals and utilizing an omni-channel approach, etc. There's so much awesome experience that you're going to get working in this industry. I can't recommend it enough if you have interest in it, which this person certainly seems to. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.